Hi, I'm Jamie with Kindred Being, and I have my sister Erin with us today. And we are just going to have a little chat about all of her experiences that she's been having. She has visions, and we're going to talk about the different experiences and what she has learned and explored in these visions. Thank you so much for being here, Erin.
You're
and
welcome.
Sharing your experiences with us.
You're welcome.
Where have your visions taken you since we last talked?
Pretty much working on myself and my energies. So I've seen myself, really don't know if I mentioned this before, on ships. In a center, like a room in ships. And for some reason it has windows that are arcing. Is that the correct word? Comes up like this, and then towards the bottom are other beings, sometimes there that I can see, sometimes not. But then the center is like a center platform and energy moving up and down, and I show up in the middle of that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's like beam me up, Scotty kind of thing, but it's no materializing, dematerializing thing happening. It's just, I'm there. It's not a hard boom or anything like that. It's just there. A lot of the time, it's happened more than once. That's why I'm saying a lot of the time. I know to stay there because it's the energies working on me and myself working on myself with the help of others.
Oh, so it's like a healing space? Like you're healing your energy?
Yes.
And when you say there's energy, does it have a color? What does it look like?
In that light, I can say it like a beam, a cylinder beam of energy, light that I show up in. It's sometimes it's a lot of whitey, yellowy, creamy color, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah. So like almost a golden white light.
Yeah.
Type of a thing.
But it changes. It changes depending on what it is I'm working on. Sometimes I'm there and I only see the energy of myself. I don't see the physical body here that I'm seeing. Everybody can see. I can see, because I look down, I look at my hands, where my hands would be, my arms, my legs, and everything would be, and then I can move out and I could see myself.
Okay, so if you're talking about your energetic body being healed in this space, so without the physical body that we all have here in this incarnation, does that have a form? Is it free flowing? Do you have energetic hands and energetic feet, or is it a completely different shape?
I do have, it's the form that we're used to. So a head, a torso, arms, legs, but it's different every time. So one that's coming strong to me right now is, imagine you could see all of your nerves throughout your entire body and where they're heading and everything, but it's still in the form that looks like a head, a neck, a torso, and all that, but you could see the nerves.
So it's still the bipedal human form, but you're able to see these nerves. Or do you feel like they're nerves, or do you feel like they're energy
For me,
centers?
When I saw that, I did think, these are my nerves. But it's the energetic connection between everything. And it's just one particular aspect that I was working on at that time. So, and the interesting thing to me was, it was more bluish green, my body form, we'll call it that. And then the energetic nerves, we'll say, were like a green. And they went to different points. And I thought it was funny, my head was a lot bigger than in proportion to everything else.
Okay.
And I seemed really large, big.
Oh, wow.
So that's one of the ones I've seen. And I just knew to stay in that center until I was done healing or evolving. I don't know what exactly it was every time, but I knew you stay in the center until it's time to get off. Sometimes I can get off and walk around, look around. And sometimes it's just there for that.
Were you feeling it as it was happening? I know you said you don't know exactly what was happening, but were you feeling any sensations?
Oh, calm.
Calm.
And I don't have any feelings of nervousness, anxiousness, anxiety, sadness. I don't have any of that when I am doing these things. So it's like all that just falls away.
Okay.
All that falls away. And it's curiosity that will never end. It's just curiosity. I want to know, what is this? What's happening? You know, who's that over there? Why am I in a spaceship that looks like it has windows that arc up like this over me, all around me? And one of the times I stepped off because it was time to, and I knew it was a ship. I walked over to one of the beings that was there, and apparently I knew her and she knew me, but I was still going to ask questions anyway. And she was at what we would call a workstation. And it seemed to go not all the way around that room of the ship, but it was in a certain section. And I looked down she was looking up at what would you call it? A screen, kind of, but it was different. It was so different than what we're used to seeing. And her hands were moving. She had hands. She had a head. She had a torso and everything like that. But she was vibrant colors. She was like a bright pinky reddish hue. And at least this part of her, and then this part of her had some green. And she had a cloth on, clothing. So, and that was really drapey and loose. And instead of hair, well, that's why I interpreted it. Instead of hair, it was, her head went up like this. And then she had these big, I don't know, I call them antennae or things like that. But they were all in one form coming down this way, and then another form coming down this way. And to her, it was like our hair, but it was different.
Okay, so we just had something interesting happen using this program. This never happened before, but the video cut out and came back in. So we're assuming it's something to do with the energies going on right now and maybe what we're talking about. But we left off when we were talking about one of Erin's visions where she was in this energy field being healed, and then she went to explore what else was happening on the ship, and she saw a female being that she was describing to us, and you were talking about the hair.
Oh, okay. So she had a larger grouping of, I would call it antennae, or that's what I call our hair, antennas anyway, but grouping up here, and it was larger at the top, and then it got smaller and smaller towards the end. And she had one on each side here. And
a grouping, or just
to me it
one?
It looked like one.
Okay.
So, but I wasn't really paying attention, like focusing on that. I was just like, oh, that's okay. I always ask when I see beings anywhere. I always ask, okay, is this what you really look like? Are you really showing me what you look like? And she didn't change, so that's what I saw.
Okay, well, there's a lot of things there that I want to talk about, but one of the things I want to talk about is in some of your other visions, you've explained how this happens, how they sometimes show you a facade, a false vision of what they look like. Do you have any idea, or is that how you would describe it?
I wouldn't describe it as false. Perhaps I at some time put that image out there. I don't know. And maybe they think that's going to be easier for me to
Relate
to.
Oh, okay.
And then, so that's why I ask is, is this what you really look like? Are you really showing me you? And she felt so familiar to me, and I couldn't quite place how or why she was feeling familiar to me, but she seemed like, we know each other. So that's what I look like. But it wasn't an attitude type of way or anything like that. It was just, it's like me asking you, is this what you really look like, Jamie? Or are you showing me something else,
I'll wait till I take off my makeup.
That's for all of us women. But, so it was kind of like that. And so she gave me that feeling, and then she just went about doing whatever she was supposed to be doing at her, I would call it a workstation.
Okay.
And she had a screen in front of her. So she wasn't looking out of the ship. It was just like a screen workstation. It was very tall and very long. It went straight up. And it had lights on it and things moving around on it. So it was, I didn't know what it was, but she knew. And then she had that in her workstation. It was a platform, I would say maybe as wide as, a little bit wider than a laptop. So, but it wasn't a laptop. And then she had, what I would call keys that she was moving her hands over. And she wasn't moving her fingers because she had them, but she wasn't moving them. She was just moving her hands around. And then when I focused more in on that, because that was blowing me away, because what was on those keys were something completely different. It wasn't ABC, 1, 2, 3. It was different symbols. Okay. And the feeling I got is that those symbols don't mean, oh, this is A, this is B. It was like a whole concept, a whole so bunch of stuff all in one symbol.
Necessarily interpreted letter for letter to our English language, but it reminds me a little bit of kanjis. Okay. So like Japanese symbols that are basically words within themselves, but as a concept. That's really neat.
Yeah. And I personally have never seen anything like it before. So I can't say, oh, you can look at the Arabic letters. You can look at the whatever other kinds of letters are out there. The other things that are different from what we're used to, the ABC. So I can't say, oh, that, is similar, but it wasn't. So it was something new.
Did it make enough of an impression where, is it something you could draw out?
I don't know. That's a good question. One only comes to mind, and I could draw it like this. It was like this. No, it went down a little bit, and it curved and went out. So what was that? I don't know. It's because when she was moving her hands over it, it was like they'd light up. The ones that she was maybe directing her energy to, or pushing with her energy or something, or whatever, they would light up. It was already lit. It was already lit like bright pinky red, kind of. And then she would do that, and then it would turn like a lighter color whenever her hands moved over it.
Did you have a sense of what she was doing, what she was accomplishing?
I always ask that, and what I tend to get back, especially at that time, was knowledge. Like, okay. All right, knowledge.
These simple answers.
Yeah, but I got that she was communicating information to others. So communicating knowledge over to others. And there was no, it's for anybody watching, there was no malice. It wasn't anything.
Okay, well, that brings up a lot of things. So she was communicating knowledge to others. Did you have a sense that it was other, as we call them, extraterrestrial beings, or was she communicating knowledge to humans
That's a good
on
question.
Earth? You didn't get a sense.
We were so far from Earth, so I don't know. It's possible. It's possible. But I got the feeling we were just so far. So far. Even though I've seen and been in, this might be weird for people. Hopefully I don't get it. But I've been in the ships that are orbiting Earth.
Yeah.
And
there's
there
a lot
are
of them, right?
Yeah, and there are those rooms in those. I don't know if it's in all of them, but it's some of the ones that I've been in, they have those rooms.
Those rooms. What do you
Yeah,
mean
the
by
one
those
that I was describing.
the healing rooms. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of those ships have that kind of healing station.
Yeah, healing station, spa for your energy.
That's so cool. And I also want to explore a little bit how you recognized each other.
Yeah.
And you had a feeling that you knew each other. Now, this isn't something, or maybe it is, something that you recall in your current consciousness as a memory. Did you have a sense of how you knew each other, why you knew each other?
That I didn't. What I did is I asked, who are you? Why are you really looking like that? And all that. And I just got back kind of like, come on, I know you. You know me. And she didn't say it, verbalize it, but I guess I do a lot of the contact I ask questions and whatever they tell me back is through telepathy, which now I know that's what it is. Because when it's happening, I'm not thinking, oh, this is telepathy, But what I do recall coming out of it is their mouths weren't moving.
Yeah, okay.
My brain was going with questions, and they were coming back with answers, and our mouths weren't moving. So...
Okay. And I think that you have expressed before with other visions that you have that experience often where you are speaking to an entity on a ship or somewhere else and they're familiar to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does this happen a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of them laugh and, think it's funny.
That you're asking
that I'm
a question.
That I'm asking these kinds of questions.
Like, you should know this.
Yeah.
So, what do you think that means? Does that mean, let's see how I can put this. Does that mean that was basically an incarnation or an experience before this one? Is it concurrent? Like, is it maybe in your dream time or your energy is over there working at the same time? Or, where does that fit, that knowledge of them, that knowing of them?
I guess it's similar to saying, how do I know you and how do you know me? And we just instantly know each other because we grew up together. We're sisters. But I don't have that answer right away, or I really haven't gotten that answer that, we started on this planet. Now we're moving into the ship and then we're going over here. They keep it really simple.
Yeah.
They keep it really simple. And for me, and that moment, it's like, oh, okay, I got it. Mm-hmm. And
that explains it. That satisfies my curiosity. Yeah.
So it's not until after is when I think, oh, I should have asked all these questions, but still I have that resonating with
We know each
We're
other.
buddies. So, well, I'm not going to ask that. But,
okay. Well, that brings up a few points too. We were talking before the video about how you kind of have a different perspective when you're experiencing these visions from our current, everyday perspective, and how that changes.
yeah.
And can you go into that a little bit?
Well, what I can say is when I was a lot younger, and let's say 19 and younger, I would have moments where those the spirit beings and guides and ETs, now I realize, were communicating with me. And sometimes I would be like how I'm saying, they were totally familiar. It was, just an experience, an observance. And then other times I'd have fear attached to it. But looking back from the perspective that I have now, I realize it was basically the influences that I was experiencing during the day that would attach fear to that. Mm-hmm. So let's say it was just in my room laying down when I was younger, my younger years, and I'd have an energy come in, and the energy, it could be dark, but it doesn't mean it was dark, like bad. It was just a physically dark energy, and sometimes they had light around them, little streams of light around them, and I would want to cover myself up with the sheets or blankets or whatever and go away, But when I see them again, they probably present themselves in a slightly different way and let me know that I know them, they know me, they're there to help me go explore. And so that's what I'm talking about, outside influences in our daily lives. I think really affected me back then, and then now. It wasn't really until the first session with Lila, and then on from there with you, the other sessions.
The Beyond Quantum Being sessions.
Was it that I really came to the understanding that we're all connected. And when I mean all of us humans, all of the plants and trees, the earth, the energy around the earth, all the other planets, all the other stars. That means
and everything, all the other beings.
Everything in it, we're all connected. And once I finally allowed that to resonate with me, the judgment was gone. And so I love just experiencing and observing. And if I feel like I want to say something or ask something, or hey, what's happening over here? Nope, we're going to go back over here. Whatever it is. Then I don't have that judgment anymore. There's other words that could be used there, but...
Okay, so when you're experiencing your visions, you're losing the... basically like the human incarnated duality that a lot of us experience, the good and the bad, all that judgment. And... well, maybe a lot of the ego self as well. And so you're experiencing from a different perspective. I think that's really cool because, the few times that I've had my own experiences were from the same vantage point where all of these little details seem to not matter anymore. And from the other perspective, it's the larger concepts that matter. And so you're basically going through and experiencing all these different environments from that perspective. That's really neat.
The thing is, I was already experiencing that, maybe not all the time when I was younger. I just wasn't conscious of it. You know, and now I know I'm conscious of it. So I guess the term conscious of being conscious comes in, and it's much easier now. So let's just say I don't have any fear of anyone or anything anymore.
Yeah. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And when you're experiencing things from that vantage point, does it feel natural? Does it feel like, oh, of course, this is the way it's supposed to be? Like,
yeah, I don't want to leave.
yeah.
I want to stay there. But it's just for that duration, that time, to get a glimpse of whatever that is, or observe whatever that is, or experience. You know, it's probably all of them all together, but sometimes it's more of an experience. Sometimes it's just, like I used the term earlier, fly on the wall kind of thing, or just even being present in my own self in that energy, that time, or that space. Actually, I wouldn't say time, I would say space. But, and just being observant or being interactive even.
Okay, so you can basically, like you say, be the fly on the wall observer, or you can be in the body of the being and experience things firsthand. When you do that, is that another you, or can you do that with any being that you meet? Can you experience things from their vantage point?
It seems to be both. I could do both. And I may not know at that moment how everything is relating to one and another, meaning that why am I having this experience? Why am I observing? Why am I here? But sometimes I'll get it right away. Sometimes it'll come a little bit after. And but I do know what the underlining thing is. The underlying thing is just love. Everybody has love to share, love to give and receive, and there is no, you're too low down here. Why are you even here? Kind of thing. You know, we'll just let you have a glimpse. You know? None of that. There's no like, let me bow to somebody or anything like that. There's none of that stuff happening.
It's like all equal.
It's all equal, and they're all so different. So I've picked up on that. Whether I've been a dog, you know, I had one where I could see that I was a dog, and what I got from that was unconditional love. You know, that was that lesson, and just loving my owner and my owner loving me, and having adventures every day, and you know,
that's so beautiful.
You know, I've seen the fairies, and that one I had a hard time with for years. Like, I knew about fairies, you know, but once I've seen myself be one, and I've seen myself in that moment of being another type, and actually a couple different types, I lost that, you know.
Now you're all about fairies.
I'm all about fairies and all kinds of other things that we read about and heard about, that maybe me at that time was like, somebody's imagination. But now I know, okay, it's all there.
We're going to need to do 10 videos to get into all of this because I find this so fascinating, and I'm sure everyone else will too. But let's rewind, go back to the fairies.
Okay.
So your experience as fairies, can you share anything about that? What is the existence of fairies? Are they here with us?
Yeah, we're just not. Some of us are, you know, some can see them, and some are just not in tune, I guess. I don't know what the word would be, but you can see them or not. But
can you see them?
I have seen them in vision.
But like with your 3D eyes and your senses, can you?
No,
see?
I haven't.
Not yet.
That's why I think it was hard for me, you know.
Yeah.
Until my higher self, myself, and the guides showed me being them and interacting with them and in different times over and over and over again. I should say space. Maybe we should do space instead of time, because
there's no linear time.
Yeah. But yeah,
it's still hard to understand.
It is.
I hear it again and again, and I accept it as truth that there is no linear time. Yet it's hard to explain, and it's hard to put into words, because we see ourselves aging day to day, you know, in the mirror, and those around us aging, and so it's a hard concept to get. But it seems that it is a human construct that we've created. But yeah, we could use the word space. It makes more sense. Okay, so in experiencing these different lives as fairies, let's just kind of go off on this tangent for a minute, because this is really fascinating to me. Where do they live? Like, where did you see them living? Was it all on this earth, or was it on different planets?
I've got the feeling, because there's different ones. Yes, here right now, just like they say, the veil, right? There's the veil. So there's just a veil,
like separating us from observing them, or being able to perceive them.
Right. And then also what we would call other lives, you know, in other times. So, like we have heard when we were kids, and probably in storybooks and things and movies and whatnot. I always ask, who is this? Why am I seeing this? What's going on? You know, I always ask similar questions every time. And so they all have different things and aspects that they take care of, that they do, and it's just like us. We have different things that we do. But so what I do get is that is to care for nature over and over and over again, and just in their way, different ways. So, for instance, I had the vision of being a sparkly light fairy that flew, had wings and things, but it was all sparkly and light. So it was, think of Tinkerbell and her like that, but that's the energy body that I was. And I was going around, and from different area to different area in basically forest, and found a tree that was having trouble, was sick. The sap was coming out, wasn't healthy. And so then I just sprinkled fairy dust or energy on it. Yeah. And then relaxed and laid down on a branch and waiting for it to heal. And there was another type of being in it, and I remember that. I think I might have brought that up. It was what we would call, I guess, gnomish, or there's other words for it. Living in the tree, and wanted to know, what are you doing here? Yeah. It's okay. They have a little attitude. It's not bad. And,
have a little attitude.
And I just said, I'm here to help the tree. Oh, okay. Close the door.
They like being left alone, huh? So they exist here, but we're not able to perceive them. Are they everywhere, or are they just like in forested areas or natural areas?
They're most likely everywhere, but what I have seen, I can only go on what I have seen and what I have experienced. Wherever you find nature, so
they're there.
They're there. Wherever you find nature, and
so any kind of nature, like grass, even like a grassy lawn, you'd find fairies there.
This one other one that's coming out in my mind real strong is where I don't know what I was doing before, but all I can remember is just boom, being there. And I looked around because there was nature all around me. I was so close to being close to the ground, but going above the ground, meaning grasses, wild grasses, and there's shrubs and trees over there, and it was just nature and flowers and all kinds of stuff. And I was thinking, okay, what am I doing? Am I crawling on the ground? Am I floating? What's happening here? And then I look over to my mind's eye left, and there were fairies, different type, flying on the backs of some type of insect.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, how cool.
And there was a whole group of them, and I was going with them.
And were you on an insect
Yeah,
as
I was
well?
on an insect as well.
Oh, how fun.
And we were going in a direction. I remember asking them, oh, is that what you really look like? And they just smiled, looked at me like,
You're tired of that question. Huh?
Yeah.
And you're just doing that as confirmation
Right.
to
yeah.
just confirm what you're seeing and experiencing.
Yes. And I asked, where are we going? And they said, come on, let's go. And it wasn't, their mouth wasn't moving, but they were smiling. They could smile. And then they turned more towards the left in a direction that way, because I was going this way, and then they turned this way, and I'm like, oh, I better follow. And I followed behind them, and they were off to do whatever it is they were off to do.
So in any of those experiences as a fairy, were you able to perceive any humans? Did you see any humans? I'm just curious about the interaction with fairies and humans from their perception.
Right. I can't recall that at this moment. I don't recall that at this moment.
Okay. Okay. So we know they're there. I guess the question would be, which I'm not sure if you received this or not, is how we can communicate with them.
Well, I guess just knowing that they're there might help.
Yeah.
You know, we know there's cats and dogs, so we know there's birds and trees. And if it resonates with you on any kind of level, that there are fairies and what we call gnomes and other kinds of other animals and people and things and spirits or whatever, I think acknowledging that. Acknowledging that, because I did have trouble with that one. And then it was like, we're going to show you, you know.
So this brings up a question for me, because we have learned about all these kinds of creatures from, you know, stories and fables and things like that. So my question is, are these people who are writing these stories, have they experienced them? Have they come to them in some way, you know, in thought form or dream, and then they're sharing those experiences with us? Or, you know, what we may have thought before learning that fairies are real is that it's all imagination. And so what's the difference in between imagination and visions?
Right. Yeah. I had to grapple with that thought process too, you know, and even when I'm asking questions and I get an answer back, I'll probably phrase the question a different way to see if I still get the same answer back. And when it comes back again, like what I was explaining about, it said, let's go. I asked, where are we going? And then I got a, come on, you know, from the fairies. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm going this way. And then it just kind of faded out. But, so I don't know if that explains anything.
Well, I think what I'm asking is imagination visions? So like when we're growing up and we're having all these daydreams and imagining all these creatures and these situations and experiences, is it possible that those are actually creating, or those are seeing, those are visions? Do you have any sense of the difference between an imagination and a vision?
Well, that's a good question because I asked that this morning.
Did you?
Yeah. And
of course you did. The synchronicities. You knew I was going to ask this question.
Well, I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but it's okay if you don't. But so I know I had a vision and dream like event that happened, and then I was going into, there was space between that, and then I let my imagination run wild, and it didn't really have anything to do with this, but I let my imagination run wild. And then when I'm like to a point where, okay, let that go, I know that's my imagination. I could feel the energy difference between the two. I could feel that these things, when I'm having the vision, or what do we call it, the dream state, when we're off doing those things, when we're asleep, or just images are being shown to me, I could feel the difference between that and then my imagination. Let's say a shopping spree. I'm going to go on a shopping spree. And I'm going to get this and that. But I know that's my imagination. There's a different energy there.
There's a different energy. So you can tell the difference between. So there is a difference then in between imagination and visions.
Yeah.
So,
but I wouldn't say that the imagination doesn't have anything to do with the other. What we keep hearing, keep getting told in so many different ways is that what we focus our energy on is what will be.
So we're like creating our reality through imagination as well.
Yes.
We were talking about one experience where you were traveling on the back of some sort of an insect, and you were able to see the other fairies that were there as well. And can you give us kind of a description of what they look like?
Okay. When I realized I was going above the ground and I looked over to my left, I saw a grouping of other fairies there, which I didn't realize I was one at that particular second. But then I found out it was just a group of them all flying in sync, not in formation, but in sync with each other. Some in front, some in the back, some further than that. And the fairies, is what I call them, their heads were not like ours, where that were, we have
like
ovalish or that type. It was more round. Am I doing right? Yeah, round. And so because they had the big eyes, and then they had really big plump cheeks, and they looked really cute. And then a little mouth. The nose, I don't remember. They probably had one. I just wasn't. It was more taken in by just the entire everything. And yeah, their heads were bigger in proportion to their body. Not like so much so it looks like they're going to fall over. But it was bigger in proportion to their body than like how we were in proportion. And they looked a little bit stockier. Like they maybe, rounded in the center or a little bit stockier. And they're all different ones that I can remember right now were holding things in their hands, where they were one hand down, one hand up. And some of them were holding what I would say is a stick or a staff or something in their left hand. The right hand was on the flying insect, which more like probably cross between a bee and a beetle. Oh. If there is one, but that's what I saw. And so they were sitting on the insect, and the insect was one flying, and they were just along for the ride and directing it more or less. And then, their hair on the head, yes, they had hair, but like I've said before, I call it antennas, but it was up. It was not falling down, wasn't long or anything like that. They were just like this.
Oh, wow.
It was all over their head down to their ears, which their ears were rounded at this where it connected, and then it went up into a point.
Okay. So did they have individual strands of hair like we do?
Yeah, you could see that. You could see, because it wasn't like I was seeing through their hair. It was just I was seeing so much, and it was all like, think of you getting electrified and your hair starts to go up, but it was all of their hair. All of their hair was doing that. And they were brownish color in hair. Some of them were lighter than that, and some of them were darker than that. And let's see, their skin was probably a beige, and there was probably other ones, that were a little bit darker and in different hues of that.
And different eye colors as well?
Dark eye colors. That's what I saw. Colors. Yeah, the darker eye colors. But I think they had other, because I wasn't zooming in to look at it. I was just kind of in awe of the whole thing. But they did have big eyes, and they had other flecks of colors on there. But and they were clothed. So thank goodness I haven't seen any naked ones, but that's okay. That's okay too, if that happens. But yeah, they were clothed.
And did you see male and female?
Yes. The one that I was, I guess, communicating with, the one that said, "Come on, let's go." He was a male, and there were other males around. And then yes, there were females. Yeah.
Did there seem to be different age groups? Do they look like they age like we do?
No. Didn't seem like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, how old would I have no idea how old they would be, because it just didn't fit into my thought process for us, Mm-hmm. So, but...
So in this vision, you were experiencing it through the body of the fairy.
Right.
And you have an understanding that was you. So that was an incarnation of yours as a fairy.
Right. But I didn't ask, am I a boy fairy, a girl fairy? I didn't ask that. I was just in awe of everybody else.
Yeah.
And that I was on an insect, and we steered it to go another way,
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It was. Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun.